show, hour number 1. The Jaguars and Dolphins kick off just after 1 o'clock down at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. Bring in Mike Dempsey. Mike, at times in season 30, I'm just amazed that we're already here, right? I mean, you were here in the beginning. You remember 30 seasons. It's spectacular. And then at times it feels like 30 seasons, right? And that's the history of an NFL club. But it's an important day because during times of the last 30 years, people wondered about this franchise. And it is rock solid heading into its 30th season. A new stadium set to begin construction after this season, this Miller Electric Center. It's got its quarterback. It believes, after spending some money, some serious money, in anchoring itself to this group of players, that it's a team that should go into the playoffs with an opportunity this fall.
Yeah, absolutely. There are no excuses, Brian. It was a big building season, both for the long-term stability of the franchise, as you alluded to with the stadium deal, but also the stability of the roster with Trevor Lawrence and Josh Hines-Allen, Tyson Campbell, Foye Oluokun, all getting some kind of a contract extension. In 3 of those cases, extremely top-of-the-market, massive type deals. The owner probably grown a little bit impatient now and disappointed. Thought they had reached a level at the end of 2022 that they'd be able to continue to build on, and it looked like they would when they started 8-3 last year. We understand injuries played a role in that, but that's a fact of life in the NFL.
Well, Doug Peterson warned us after that really disappointing performance against the 49ers in November that this team hadn't done anything yet. And then when things got rough, it wasn't able to overcome that. So they spent this offseason trying to put pieces in place, both on the field and on the sidelines and in the meeting rooms, of coaches and players who had been there and done that. Guys like Eric Armstead, in particular, who had been to a championship game, who'd been to the Super Bowl with the 49ers. We'll see how quickly that comes to fruition. But I think listen, when I'm at Publix or speaking at the Rotary Club, I hear from people, what's the future? What's the next 3 to 5 years? What can they do? And I think, from my expectation, the golden age of Jaguars football was 96 through 99, right? I mean, that was when it was at its best most consistently. I think it's fair to expect that this team will enter that second golden age of Jaguars football with the roster, with the amenities, with everything that's been put into place right here and right now.
Yeah, you call it expectation, you could call it hope. I think the fan base agrees with you. I don't think anybody argues what the golden age of Jaguar football has been, but really, to me, the next 3 to 5 years are going to be not solely dependent, but heavily dependent on the performance of Trevor Lawrence. This is a quarterback-driven league. He got paid to be an elite quarterback, to play at that high level week in, week out. Yeah, you can have an off game every now and then, but he's got to be a lot more consistent than he's been in his early career. And granted, he's just coming into his mid-20s. I think he's got the talent, the ability to do that, but he's got to perform for this football team to get to where they want to go.
All right, so let's hear from Doug Peterson, who was asked at his Wednesday press conference this week about Shad Khan's declaration that now is the time to win. If you haven't seen The Hunt on YouTube, we have a piece of video in there from the team meeting the night before training camp opened, and Khan was transparent about his expectations for the 30th NFL season for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
That's quite honestly, that's what I was hired to do, and that's why we brought these players in here to do, right, is to win football games. And we're not going to make excuses for why. We just have to go do it. So I can appreciate that, and it doesn't add any extra pressure or anything like that. We just have to go, do our jobs.
I do think the way the season ended last year helps them a little bit, Brian. When you alluded to, Doug Peterson talking about we haven't done anything with this team yet, I think that was a little bit of a shot across the bow that, hey, these players thought we're just going to show up as defending AFC South champs and keep rolling, and it doesn't work that way. And now I think, for the returning players on this team, the core of this team, they realize the disappointment that they went through last year, that it was all there in their hands, and they don't want that to happen again. So I do think that while I would have much preferred the team to make the postseason, I do think it's galvanized them and it's helped them focus. And I think you're not going to get anything from the Jags this year in terms of just, hey, we're showing up, we're that talented. They know what it takes now, I think, to get back to where they want to be.
In production meeting after production meeting in August with both Doug and Trevor, I think I told you this, they know what they failed at last year. They don't necessarily want to share every little bit of it, but they are determined not to have that be the issue. So I go back to the Chiefs game last year. You remember it was the home opener, week 2, and the Jaguars defense played excellent. They held the Chiefs to 18 points. the offense scored 3 field goals. It was a very poor performance. And in the locker room after the game, I kept hearing, we had a bad week of practice. We had a bad week of practice. And I remember thinking, how's that possible? It's your home opener. It's the defending Super Bowl champs, and it's the team that knocked you out of the playoffs. How's that possible? So asking around this week, just to kind of see where the practice week was, they had 2 really good days on the practice field, according to players and folks that I talked to, coaches and personnel people, all felt like this team was ready for opening day, which we will find out coming up here in the next couple of hours. Which brings us to the quarterback. And when you face a team in Miami that averaged just under 30 points a game, it puts a little pressure on the offense. You know you're going to have to put the points on the board. And Trevor was asked about being ready to do just that.
We got a lot of confidence in our defense, so you're always hoping it's not that. And I got a lot of faith and belief in them. But, reality is you play against a lot of good teams every week. You're playing against great players. So that's always a possibility. But I got a lot of faith in our defense and not concerned about it. But to your point, there are times where we're going to have to pick up the load and carry the defense a little bit, and vice versa. They're going to have to some games carry us, and we're not getting anything going. We're a little bit, stalling out drives. They got to come up with some big stops, and vice versa. If another offense gets rolling a little bit, we got to be able to answer. We got to be able to hold the ball, have some long drives, finish drives with touchdowns in the red zone instead of field goals. All those things are important, and it just depends on what the game is. That's why it's a team sport. You never know how it's going to unfold each week, but you got to be prepared to do whatever you need to do to win.
With all deference to the defense, do you agree with the idea that this team's going to have to put 30 points on the board to win today?
I don't know they necessarily have to put up 30 points. It really, to me, is going to come down to how well Miami's offensive line plays. That's been a big question mark for the Jags all offseason. Miami Dolphins lost a couple of starters on that offensive line, and if you followed the reporting on that team all throughout training camp, that is what those local reporters and observers are most concerned with, is can you protect Tua Tagovailoa? Yeah, they have a good quick game. They can get the ball out of his hands quickly. But if you want to set up some of those deep plays to Tyreek Hill, I think the Jags have an opportunity today to disrupt some of that with their pass rush. So Miami really didn't play the same offensively down the stretch last year as they did early in the season. Remember, they hung 70 on Denver, and everyone thought this might be one of the great offenses of all time.
726 yards of offense.
Right, and they're capable of doing that. But at the same time, I think week 1 out of the gates, I picked this to be a high-scoring game. So I think more likely than not, but I think there is an opportunity for this Jaguars defensive front to get disrupted today.
If you're going to have confidence in the defense, and we'll hear from Josh Allen coming up here in a few minutes, it's that defensive front. It is deeper than it was a year ago. The return of Devon Hamilton alone does that, let alone that they've got Eric Armstead. And I think they're going to have a pitch count for him, a system, a way to maximize his efficiency on the field this year. I know I'm excited about the defensive front. You heard Trevor Lawrence say, hey, I got a lot of confidence in the defense. He worked against that defensive front on the practice field all day. The one thing that Doug Peterson talked about was how quickly the ball comes out. Ryan Nielsen echoed that. Tagovailoa gets rid of the ball fast, and that means that this Jaguars defense is going to have to be on their game. It wouldn't hurt for the Jaguars offense to be on the game, and if that's going to happen, it means the offensive line has got to play really well today, really well.
Oh, no doubt.
So let's hear from Press Taylor, who was asked about this offensive line, which will play together really for the first time today. They got a little time in that Falcons game at the end of the preseason, but not a ton. So Mitch Morse, the new starting center, is in there, and Press Taylor talked about what he's seen from the front five.
We're very confident in the work they've put in, and that's really all we can go off right now. From April through training camp, through all of it, whether it's the meetings, spending time together, getting on the same page communication-wise, to the reps we see on the field and the reps we spend time getting in the walkthroughs. We've put a lot of time into that, and we're very confident in the way they'll play. But again, that's the part of it. Let's go see what happens.
How confident are you?
Wait and see.
Okay.
Right? I mean, I'm confident at times in certain aspects of it. I think Anton Harrison being healthy this year is a major plus.
He's a really good football player.
And I thought Ezra Cleveland as well, being 100% healthy coming into the season, I think he's over the issues he had in training camp. That's going to be a plus as well. Mitch Morse has to be an upgrade. I mean, I don't know to what degree he is an upgrade. I think they're going to be better, Brian, but that's where we're kind of at right now. Offensive lines are funny things, and, even Press Taylor saying, I'm confident in the work we put in. But that tells you he's a little bit unsure about exactly what level of performance you're going to get as well.
You know, people look at third down numbers. I'm going to look even deeper. Third down in 3 yards or less last year, the Jaguars were at the very bottom of the league. They couldn't stay on the field in situations where they should have been able to, and it disrupted a natural flow to the offense. They just couldn't play the way that they wanted to play. So that's going to be a very important number, I think. The Jaguars' ability, not if they average 4.6 yards per carry or they rush the ball 30 times, but when they want to run, Mike, they got to be able to.
Well, you got to be able to convert third and short, right? And, you know, I saw it the other night in the game in Brazil. 4th and 2.
It still sounds funny to me, by the way.
Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
I know, the game in Brazil. But, with a 4th and 2, I was thinking to myself, would the Jags trust that offensive line to give it to Travis Etienne in that circumstance? And if they did, would they be able to convert it? I agree with you. I think that's going to be one of the big tells as to whether or not they're going to win this football game, because you want to extend drives. You get those opportunities. You don't want to give it back to that high-powered offense.
I hope they trust Hank Bigsby and let that guy.
Whomever.
Well, no, just because they didn't use that power back last year much, I'd like to see them be able to do it. We'll find out. Hey, how about the defensive line rotation? Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker last year averaged about 80% of the snaps. And the Jaguars' stated goal was to get them down below 70, closer to two-thirds, 65, 66% of the snaps. They have a rotation this year. Eric Armstead, Devon Hamilton is back. They've got 2 young players. Mason Smith in particular was very impressive during training camp. So Josh was asked about the importance to him of having a rotation this year up front that'll allow them to stay fresh.
You know, and this is a week where, we're going to be running a lot. And, rightfully so. We earn the right to rush the passer. So we got to play really physical in this run game, stop the run, and earn the right to rush. And I think the rotation is going to be big. And then we can have a good rotation and not get caught in the rotation. I think we'll be very successful this week.
Josh makes a good point. This team loves to run the ball. As much as we focus on Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle running all over the field with that speed, they have speed everywhere. Devon Achane is one of the fastest backs in the league. Raheem Mostert's a bigger back. He is very fast. Jalen Wright, the rookie, has the look of an all-around feature back if he had the opportunity. It's a kind of a 3-headed monster that they're probably going to throw at you. And, oh, by the way, our old nemesis, Jonnu Smith, at tight end, while you're focusing on all this other stuff, is going to get one-on-one matchups all day long as well.
Better be ready for that. Let's end with this. When people talk about the favorites in the AFC, obviously Kansas City and Baltimore are right there at the top of the list. A lot of love thrown to the Texans, even the Colts. But what about the Jaguars? I understand how the season ended last year, and it left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. Christian Kirk spoke to the media on Monday and was asked the question, are you guys being overlooked this year? And what do you think about it?
I wouldn't necessarily say underdog mentality, but definitely maybe flying under the radar a little bit more. Definitely people aren't talking about us the way they were talking about us last year. And but it's not a bad position to be in. For us, it's just focusing on us and, our goals, our visions of what we have, expectations we have for ourselves and, this season. So it's easier to, block out the noise. I think we learned from that last year.
Look, I think it's fair and deserved when people doubt a team that collapsed down the stretch, and that's what they did last year. Injuries notwithstanding, you've got to find a way to win one more football game and defend your AFC South crown. But, no matter what anyone says about him, Brian, it didn't matter what people said about him last year when people were picking him to go deep into the playoffs.
Exactly.
and repeat. Who cares unless you read your press clippings? But they got off to the 8-3 start, but they couldn't finish it off. It's almost better, I think. I think there is a little bit of a rally around the flag mentality here for the Jaguars, particularly the ones that were here for the collapse.
I do think that they are motivated less by other people's opinion and more by what they know to be true, which is that when things really got tough, this team didn't have the edge that it needed to overcome the problems that they created in large part for themselves. Well, there'll be more sound for the week coming up in the second hour of the Publix Tailgate Show. And kickoff obviously comes your way at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Jags fans, are you Duval enough to become the Jaguars 2024 NFL Fan of the Year and earn a trip to Super Bowl 59? Visit NFL.com/Fan of the Year and nominate someone today. Well, coming up on the Publix Tailgate Show.
A lot of fast guys. I mean, it's all over the tape. They got some fast guys. So, that's the big thing with them is explosive plays.
That's newcomer safety Darnell Savage. He'll have his head on a swivel today and explain why in this week's Baptist Health Player Interview. Plus, CBS Sports senior writer Pete Prisco. You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show, and this is Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
We've spent a lot of time in our homes.
I'm on a Zoom call.
Dinner's ready.
But we've learned that when we love our home, it loves us right back. Now you can keep that love going when you install energy-efficient natural gas appliances and earn up to $1,925 in cash rebates. You'll love endless hot water, faster drying and cooking times, and ongoing savings and comfort. To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
The creamiest, dreamiest, soft ice cream you get from Mr. Softy. For a refreshing delight supreme, look for Mr. Softy. The milkshakes and the sundaes and the cones are such a treat. Look out for the ice cream stand, enjoy it from your seat. The creamiest, dreamiest, soft ice cream you get from Mr. Softy. For a refreshing delight supreme, look for Mr. Softy. SOFTEE, Mr. Softy.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
Attention Northeast Florida businesses. The Jaguars and Corporate Traveler are teaming up to bring you the Rising Business Spotlight Program. Get your business in front of 65,000 passionate fans at each Jaguars home game. It's your chance to shine with prime in-stadium exposure, an interactive activation space, and a powerful social media spotlight. Be one of the 6 selected small to medium-sized businesses to be showcased this season. Connect with new audiences like never before. Visit corporatetraveler.us/Jaguars. Don't miss out on this game-changing opportunity with the Jacksonville Jaguars and Corporate Traveler.
We return to the Publix Tailgate Show. Brian Sexton and Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios. The Jaguars and Dolphins will be with us from Hard Rock Stadium in South Florida. Kickoff just after 1 o'clock this afternoon. Well, here we go, regular season. And you and I love it, and the guy that you talk to every week loves it as well. The beauty thing about Pete, who's now, 60, is that his energy level for football has never changed.
Yeah, I'm not going to guess how old he is because I'm going to creep up on that
He's
number sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
a little
exactly.
bit older than me as well, so I'm with you on that. But yeah, look, Pete sees it all around the National Football League, so he gives you a nice perspective from that standpoint. He's seen this Miami Dolphins team during joint practices with the Commanders earlier this offseason. But, look, Brian, it was a big, eventful offseason. Pete and I discussed that during training camp, and he agrees that at this point, all that's behind you now. You got to go out there and prove it on the field.
Yeah, and look, you get through the off season, you get excited about the draft, you get excited about free agency, but you get excited about training camp. All you really want to do is get to the regular season, and here it is, Mike. We're ready to go. I'm ready to go, and it's going to be a fun season.
You and I have talked about it. A lot of eventful stuff that went on this offseason, whether it was with the stadium or the contract extensions. That doesn't necessarily lead to success on the field in 2024. So how do you feel things went, Pete, the way they conducted themselves in terms of getting this team ready to play, whether it was throughout mini camps, OTAs, training camp?
Well, I think they did a nice job with the free agency and the draft. They've added some important pieces, particularly Mitch Morse, the center, and then you go get extensions for two of your core players in Trevor Lawrence and Josh Hines Allen. I think that was important. And then, the stadium thing, that's always a feel-good thing to let the people in Jacksonville know they're not going to go anywhere. So I think it's been a really good off season. Having said that, none of that matters once the ball kicks off. And in terms of contracts and that type of thing, you got to go play. You got to go try and live up to those contracts. But I think it's been a feel-good off season that's leading into a season that I think can be successful.
What's your confidence level in this year's version of the Jaguar offensive line?
To be determined, Mike, but I think it can't be any worse than it was a year ago.
Right.
And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that they're going to be, the old Dallas Cowboys dominant offensive line, but it will be better in large part because Morse is the center. I mean, they struggled because the center couldn't get people, moved. He couldn't protect the quarterback. And now you have a guy, he's not a physically overpowering center, but he's smart. He knows the angles. I think he'll make the guards better. I think Harrison's in for a big-time season at right tackle, and I think Cam Robinson is good enough. He's not a great player, but he's good enough and will hold up there. So I think they'll be better than they were a year ago. I don't know how much better, but certainly better.
Who are, outside of Trevor Lawrence, and let's take Josh Hines-Allen out of the equation as well, who are the 2 or 3 Jaguars that their performance will most dictate how good this year goes?
I mean, I think you got to talk about Morse in the middle of that line. I really believe that. I think when you get a veteran center like that, could come in there and call, make the line calls and get the team in the right calls and help Trevor Lawrence and get some push in the middle of the line. I think that matters, and it will help the run game. I mean, I think ETN's going to run the ball better. So I think he's on the offense. You hate to say a center, but that's exactly what I'm going to say on that side of the ball. I think Trayvon Walker's in for an enormous year. One that would push him to maybe even get 15, 16 sacks. The growth of him, and I've been critical of him at times because I think at times he didn't use the skills he's been given, but he seems to have really morphed into that kind of player. We know he's overpowering, but I think his ability to use his hands and get away from blockers will help him get the sack number. So I think Trayvon Walker, if they get that kind of double combination of pass rushers with him and Hines-Allen, wow, that can really, really, really impact the defense.
And, of course, he'll get to line up with Eric Armstead on the defensive line. Pete, a late addition in free agency, but he comes from a very winning organization in San Francisco. It's something the Jags focused on with their free agents, really. They wanted guys who have played deep into the postseason. How much of a ripple effect will that have throughout the locker room this year? You're not only talking about Armstead, Morse himself, Gabe Davis, Darnell Savage, Ronald Darby. A lot of these guys have gone deep into the playoffs.
And I think that helps when you have a young team, and I think we saw that last year, Mike. You saw the young team kind of came apart. The quarterback got hurt, and that impacted it for sure, but they kind of came apart. They had the number 1 seed at one point going into that Sunday night game, and then they didn't know how to handle it. That's the one thing you hear from inside that building is the young guys didn't know how to handle the success. It's not just getting to the playoffs. It's not just getting to a spot where you have the number 1 seed. It's finishing it. And I think when you get guys like that into the building, and Armstead, who's been there, you mentioned, and Morse and Darby and Savage, they've been around it. They understand what it takes. And I think that's a big help to a bunch of young players.
Pete, what is the biggest advantage, in your opinion, the Jags have X's and O's wise this week against Miami?
I think they'll be able to throw the football on them. I really do. I think they're going to be able to attack down the field. You're going to see that rookie receiver getting down the field and making plays. And I think that's the big advantage they have. And I think it's going to be an advantage all season. They can drive the ball down the field. A year ago, they couldn't do it. The protection wasn't good enough. I don't think the deep ball receivers were good enough. But now they have that, and I think they'll be able to attack this Miami defense down the field.
What's the matchup that concerns you the most this week?
Let's flip it over on the other side. Those corners against those receivers. I mean, here's the thing. When you play Tyreek Hill, you better get hands on him, and particularly if Jacksonville's going to play the way they want to play this year, which is play a lot of man coverage. If you don't get your hands on Tyreek Hill, he's going to run by you. Waddle can flat out run. I mean, they are so fast. And I think that's the most concerning thing. I personally, and I've said this many a time, I would beat up Tyreek Hill as much as I can, then put a safety over the top and let the other guys beat me. If Waddle and Gang and the rest of that group beats me, then they beat me. But I'm taking him away, and everybody else is going to beat me.
All right, Pete, do you think the Jags will be successful with whatever the game plan is? Will they come out of this game 1-0?
I think they will. It's going to be a fun game, Mike. A lot of points. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think you're going to see teams going up and down the field. But in the end, I think Jacksonville will find a way. I think there's a better team, for all. And here's the other thing, the toughness factor. Miami's pretty. They're fast. They're athletic. They're fun to watch. They get creative. But when it comes time to win games, particularly last year against teams with winning record, they were 1-6. I don't think they're tough enough. I think Jacksonville's tougher. I think that shows up. I think Jacksonville wins the game.
All right, there you go. Look, I'm with Pete on that one, but it really will come down to a line of scrimmage game. Brian, we talk about that at every level of football, but I truly believe that's the way you disrupt this team. You know, Pete didn't exactly call them soft, but they are a finesse team. That's what they are. Even though they want to run the ball, they do that even in a finesse style at least half the time with Achane, and they like to get him in space. So will the Jaguars be the bully today? I think that will go a long way in determining what the final outcome is.
No, there's so many ways to go with this. Will the defensive line dominate the line of scrimmage? Will Trevor Lawrence come out and play sharp football? He threw too many interceptions, had too many turnovers last year, 21 in total. He can't have that. There's just so many ways to look at it. Here's how I see it. Last year, the Jaguars were 1-5 in the big games. And I count the Titans game as a big game at the end of the year, not because they were an elite team, but because of what that game meant. And they went 1-5. And Pete just said that you had a team that was 1-5 in their big games last year. All right, let's see which team can step up on opening day between two teams that have playoff Super Bowl aspirations. I think that's a big storyline to follow.
Oh, no question about it. So, hey, we don't have to wait long to find out.
No, we won't. It's coming up at 1 o'clock. Well, our player interview this week is presented by Baptist Health, changing healthcare for good. As I just mentioned, the Jaguars went 1-4 against the Chiefs, Bills, 49ers, Bengals, and Ravens, and then, of course, they lost the game to the Titans. And so general manager Trent Baalke and head coach Doug Peterson went looking for players with winning resumes. Safety Darnell Savage is one of those guys. His pick 6 in the Packers' playoff ride of the Cowboys helped blow that game wide open. Savage is a guy who loves football and knows what it takes to win on the big stage. He's excited to get started today in Miami.
Nah, it definitely holds a special place. I feel like the whole world can't wait for football to start back up. So it's definitely like an anticipation, just kind of in the air everywhere, you know. So, and plus, just that feel of game day at a stadium is unmatched, you know. So it's exciting times.
Opening day, a brand new defensive scheme. Tell me, where do you feel this group is in terms of understanding the scheme and where you guys want to be?
Yeah, I feel like we're in a good spot, you know. The big thing about us is we've got guys that have played a good amount of ball, you know, guys that are smart, so we can communicate out there. As long as we're on the same page, then we all good.
Tell me what it's like to be a defensive back and spending the week getting ready for Tyreek Hill, who's obviously a unique player with explosive speed. What's that week of preparation like?
Just being locked in. It's exciting for us because, when you got players like that, the ball's got to come his way. So we're going to have our opportunities to make plays and stuff like that. So, you really just don't there's a way to prepare, and no matter who you're going against, you really got it because there's a lot of everybody's good in this league, so just focusing and preparing the right way every single week.
This is obviously an offense that last year was at the top of the charts in the NFL. What do they do that makes them so effective, that makes it difficult to counter?
They got a lot of guys that can get yards after the catch, big explosive play guys, that kind of thing. A lot of fast guys. I mean, it's all over the tape. They got some fast guys. So, that's the big thing with them is explosive plays and eye discipline, too, as far as with all the moving parts that they have, as far as motioning and that kind of thing. So,
and last one, how does it feel now after being here for a couple of months, after having been in Green Bay, right? I mean, you're picking up and you're moving someplace completely different. How comfortable do you feel with this locker room, with this team, with this scheme, with your choice of Jacksonville?
I feel good. Everybody has accepted me in here. I feel like I'm just one of the guys, and that's the most important thing. At the end of the day, we all got the same goal. We come in here to win games. So, but I love it here. I'm very, very happy with my choice.
Part of defense in the passing era of the NFL, Mike. The word on him from Dave Campo, who knows a thing or two about developing defensive backs, is that he's unique in playing the nickel because he is equally comfortable in zone or man schemes inside. There aren't a lot of guys like that. The Jaguars wanted to get one of their own.
And I think, Brian, when you talk about the influence of players that come from winning organizations, he gets overlooked a little bit because he was injured and really not a big focal point. Mitch Morse was the priority guy to get on the offensive line. Eric Armstead was a big money guy. Gabe Davis was the first guy you agreed to in free agency. But then, Ronald Darby and Darnell Savage in this secondary bring a ton of experience. Darby played very well, by the way, against the Miami Dolphins when Baltimore manhandled them last year down the stretch. He was the highest graded defensive back in that game for Baltimore.
Which is very important today against Waddle and Hill. All right, coming up in 15 minutes, Hall of Famer Tony Baselli and Jeff Loggeman join us from the booth. But up next,
you can run, take the top off. I mean, the guy's electric speed. So we just got to practice at our speed, our tempo and everything, and just not let him take us off our game.
It's a big challenge today for new defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen in his scheme's debut in Jacksonville. The Jaguars and Dolphins coming up opening day from Miami and Hard Rock Stadium. You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Mr. Chubby's Wings is a whole lot more than just wings. Craving the ultimate game day experience? Look no further. Swing by Mr. Chubby's and indulge in the biggest and best wings in town, all while soaking up the lively atmosphere with fellow sports fans. With plenty of game day specials and locations on the West Side, Fleming Island, Ponte Vedra Beach, and new this season, EverBank Stadium, they're here for all your game day needs. Mr. Chubby's Wings is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mr. Chubby's Wings, before the game, after the game, and during the game. Tackle your marketing needs with Kessler Creative. Providing direct mail services for more than a decade, Kessler has a wide range of services from small mailers to large banners and signs. Draft Kessler as your first pick to receive the best targeted mail list. Elevate your business and be on the winning team with Kessler Creative. Kessler Creative. Results-driven marketing and proud partner of your Jacksonville Jaguars. Touchdown at Jaguars away games when you fly nonstop from Jacksonville International Airport. Join the Jaguars in Miami and Houston. Watch them win in Philly, Detroit, Nashville, and Las Vegas. All the other Jaguars games are just one short connection away. And if airport parking has you stressed, be sure to visit the Jax Airport website before traveling to the terminal. On it, you'll find information about the status of on-airport parking in real time. See if your favorite areas are available or if you need to call an audible. Visit flyjax.com for more information.
Headquartered in Jacksonville, Florida, CSI Companies partners with leading healthcare and technology organizations nationwide to deliver workforce solutions. CSI prides itself on building meaningful relationships and provides personalized operations to fuel the success of businesses, both big and small. Whether it's finding the right talent for a job or seamlessly managing a project from start to finish, CSI has 3 decades of experience in getting the job done. This is your workforce solutions reimagined. Visit CSICompanies.com.
Hey fans, it's Tyson Campbell, cornerback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This season, your game day is getting even tastier with Al's Pizza in the stadium. And every time we get a pick, you'll score. If the Jaguars get 1 interception, you'll enjoy buy one, get one free pizza at any Al's Pizza location Monday through Thursday after the home game. 2 interceptions, a free dessert. And 3 interceptions, that's a free appetizer. Just tell them you want the Jags pick. Up your game and get your Al's Pizza at the game or any of their locations.
And welcome back. The Publix Tailgate Show rolls along here in hour number 1. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. The Jaguars and Dolphins come your way from Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens. Miami Gardens is actually the municipality where it is. It's not in Miami. It's not in Fort Lauderdale. It's in Miami Gardens. Not that you needed to know. Brian and Mike with you from the Hyundai Studios, and it's time for our weekly commentary from Rick Ballou.
It's the first Sunday of the 105th NFL season, and for the Jaguars, it's historic. Year number 30. Now, we're always about fast starts. A year ago, Jacksonville 8-3, so I got them going 1-3 to begin the month of September. Now, obviously, this is a preseason prognostication. I'll change that based on several aspects each and every week, including most notably what team is the healthiest. But they have 4 playoff teams, 3 of the 4 that are on the road. What is different, after the 8-3 start, they went 1-5 to close out the season. This year, I expect the exact opposite. Give me Jacksonville to go 5-1 to wrap up the 2024 year. Let's steal an old cliche, right? It's a marathon, not a sprint. How about this, though? Fast starts in a game. Last year, first quarter, Jaguars only averaged 3.6 points in that first quarter. That was ranked 22nd in the NFL. Halftime, 9.8, 24th in the NFL. Compare that to the Miami Dolphins, who, of course, they face this afternoon. They put up 16.2 points. That was number 2 in the league. Why is it important to get a fast start? So many reasons. Most notably, when you do it, you're able to run the ball. All right, this is a pass-first team. I get that. You get that. But running the ball changes the complexion of your entire football team, including keeping your defense on the sideline and tiring your opponent's defense. 30 turnovers, bottom line. That has to change. Biggest concern I have, they walk back this offensive line outside of the center position with Mitch Morris. I think that is something that could be regrettable when it's all said and done. We'll find out. With the new math in the NFL, I love this one. 22% of Trevor Lawrence's incompletions a year ago were because of wide receiver error. 22%. Now, I think that changes for the much better. With a healthy Christian Kirk and Parker Washington, who had an unbelievable camp this year, Washington did at the Miller Electric Center, and the addition of first-round draft pick Brian Thomas Jr. plus free agents Gabe Davis and Devin Duvernay, I think overall that could end up being the most improved part of this Jaguars roster. Enjoy the game, folks. Should be a fun one today in Miami.
All right, you can catch Into the Night with Rick Ballou weeknights from 6 to 8 on 1010XL. Let's go right to our coaching interview this week, and it's defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen, who's been on message since the first day of training camp, and it's perfect for this week's opponent. I talked to the Jags' new defensive coordinator, couldn't get him focused on Tyreek or Tua or how much speed they have. Nielsen acknowledged all of those things, but was steadfast with his storyline, which he's talked about since July, which is the Jags are focused on themselves and their assignments. I heard it in the locker room also from players who didn't want to talk about the Dolphins, but just about doing their job and playing their game. This Jacksonville defense knows how talented the Dolphins are and what a big task it will be to knock them off in Miami on opening day, but they're not focused on it. They're not fazed by it. They're focused on Nielsen's plan.
They're really good offense, a lot of team speed, shift trade motion every single snap. So we got to do a really good job winning the pre-snap. We got to be able to align and adjust. That's what that means. And then we got to be able to match their shift trade motions with our tempo, meaning that we can't let them out-tempo us. And so we got to get over there. We got to get set, get our eyes in the right spot. So when the ball snap, we're ready to go. A lot of the times guys are behind. They're running routes or run plays and things like that. They got numbers. So we can't let them get the numbers on us.
Is this the fastest team in the NFL?
Don't know that. We just looked at these guys. They're really fast, though.
Combination of fast and misdirection and all the different things they do. It really means guys have to be on their rules, right? What you said that during training camp. What does that mean?
Yeah, your eyes got to be in the right spot. You'd be able to align and adjust. You got to know the scheme, what we're doing, how our adjustments are. But most part is, hey, get over there, get set, get your eyes in the right spot. When the ball is snapped, be in a good football stance, good football position, be able to react and respond how you need to in your particular job within the defense so we can have success.
If you're a defensive back getting ready for a Tyreek Hill, what's that week of preparation like?
Just like any other. It's just about yourself. Look, the guy's a really good football player. We're not denying that he's not a really good player. He really is. But we look at him, we evaluate him. What does he do really well? He can run, take the top off. The guy's electric speed. So we just got to practice at our speed, our tempo, and everything, and just not let him take us off our game. We just got to play our game, do our job, our fundamentals, our technique. It matters what we do, not what he does. And so we take that approach to it, but not just him, but every opponent.
You've moved around from a couple of different spots, college and pro. How long does it take for your unit to grasp what you want them to do? Are you ready on opening day, or is that a process that takes time?
No, it's a one day at a time process. It really is. From the first day you start until your entire time you're working for perfection. That's what it's about, being perfect every single day. Get better. We just take one day at a time. Everybody says that, one day at a time. But what truly is that? It's your focus, your supreme locked in intensity, passion for fundamentals and technique and be totally locked in on the scheme that we're doing in order to be prepared, not just for that day. And then let's evaluate how we did that day and then come back and the next day is the same thing.
Seemed like I saw that on the very first day of training camp. I mean, is that a fair statement? I mean, these guys have had a passion for what you're doing from the day you got here.
Yeah, guys have been doing a great job. It's a player's game. It's all about the players, their mindset, keeping them fresh, things like that. Challenging them mentally, physically, things. But our guys have done a fantastic job. Our guys we'll be ready to go. We work up to and through the game, so it's not over until it's over. But our guys have done a really good job and up until this point, and we'll look to get better tomorrow.
You're so steady. Does opening day take it up a notch for you, though? I mean, you've done this a long time. Is it just the first game, or does opening day have a little excitement?
Each game is one unit, and so we have 17 units, and so they all count the same.
Look, I'll help Ryan out. I do think they're the fastest team, at least for what he needs to be concerned with, which is the offensive skill guys, right? And they're like a track team out there, Brian. But I like the fact that Ryan Nielsen wants to play a lot of press man because, look, it's counterintuitive. You think, okay, with that speed, you want to play off these guys, give them a little cushion. But as you mentioned earlier, they love to get the ball out quickly. And they'll take that in Tyreek Hill's hands 5 yards past the line of scrimmage and count on him beating you after the catch. You get up in their face, and if you can get a little pass rush against what is a questionable offensive line, it could make for a long day. I think that's the way you want to play this team.
In the rush and cover balance, right, you would love to say it's 50-50, right? Your pass rush and your coverage working together equal parts. But today, because of the way that those two guys can run after the catch, it's almost got to be 65-35, 70-30. I mean, you've got to impact Tua somehow, some way. It might not show up in sacks, but you've got to make him think.
But it's interesting because when Ryan Nielsen got here, he said, it's almost a little backwards how he looks at it. Like the coverage really helps the rush. I think most people think the rush impacts the coverage more, even though they're kind of symbiotic relationship. But he has said, look, it's our guys and their ability to cover and my scheme, and if you execute it the right way, that gives those guys up front that extra half beat. But I agree with you. Today, you're not going to get that extra half beat a lot of the time. Tua will get the ball out on a 3-step drop. So if you can get some push, particularly up the middle, get in his face and make him feel uncomfortable, I think that's the way you got a chance to really disrupt them.
Who are we going to be talking about in the postgame if the Jaguars win on the defensive side? Who on this side of the ball are you interested in? Who do you think has a key role? Who has to have a big game today?
I think Trayvon Walker, because his ability to move inside and outside and create matchups and put him over some of the more questionable guys. They still have Teron Armstead, who's a very good left tackle, right? And you might see Josh Hines-Allen matched up with him, and he'll win his share of the reps. But I think you can move Trayvon around like a chess piece. And again, going back to Ronald Darby, who we talked about his performance last year in Baltimore, I think he is one of the unsung additions, one of the unsung players in terms of what we should need to expect out of them if the Jags are going to be what we hope they're going to be this year. He has excelled in his career in man coverage, and he's just never been able to stay healthy for the longest stretches of time. He's healthy right now. That's what you got today. Let's hope he stays that way.
All right, folks, you heard it right there. Looking for the MVP of the truck game? Well, you better check out the 2024 Ford F-150, loaded with impressive capability and game-changing tech. You can dominate work, play, and everything in between. You can test drive an F-150 at your local Ford dealer. Proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, coming up at 11 o'clock, it's hour 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show. But when we return, Jaguars analyst Jeff Lageman and Hall of Famer Tony Baselli join us from the broadcast booth. The Jaguars and Dolphins kick off at 1 o'clock Eastern Time on opening day 2024, the Jaguars' 30th NFL season. And you're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
How do you get him to a healthy future? Start with Nemours Children's Health. Our dedicated pediatricians and pediatric specialists provide all the care and support that you and your child need when it's needed most. Because keeping him well today will help ensure his very best tomorrow, so he can grow up to be whoever he wants to be. Nemours Children's Health. Well, beyond medicine.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, they total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
The kick is up. It's good!
Score winning sub deals this Jaguar season at Firehouse Subs. Receive 50% off on any sub when the Jaguars kick a field goal of 40 yards or more. It's a bold deal for the bold city. Download the Firehouse Subs app for offer details. Redeemable only at participating Jacksonville and Orlando area restaurants. Only available in the Firehouse Subs app.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
Hey Jags fans, Extreme isn't always about heat, it's about flavor. And 505 knows flavor. So wake up those sleepy taste buds with 505's new lineup of premium craft salsa. Powered by the bud-kicking boldness of fire-roasted Hatch Valley chilies, 505 salsas are more than enough to bulk up any simple spread. Ignite your sense of boldness with 505's all-new assortment of fiercely fiery flavors featuring 505's new black bean and corn craft salsa. And of course, 505's award-winning flagship flavor, Southwestern style.
Welcome back to the Publix Tailgate Show. Hour number 1 coming to a close. Brian and Mike with you from the Hyundai Studios. JP is in here at the start of the second hour at 11. Kickoff comes your way in just more than 2 hours. The Jaguars and Dolphins opening day. But first, it's time for the first rounds on us.
New York Jets, first round choice. Jeff Lockerman.
Jacksonville Jaguars have selected tackle Southern California, Tony Basilli.
All right. First rounds on us, presented by Ancient City Brewing. Taste history, make history. And Jeff and Tony join us from the booth at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. Gentlemen, welcome to season 30 of Jaguars football.
Yeah, it's so great. It's so exciting. I woke up this morning, guys, and I was like, for the first time, because I realized that preseason football is just kind of bummed me out how camp and everything is, because you don't really get to see what the team's going to be, get glimpses of it. I woke up this morning pumped for this game and for this season. I'm like excited to see who we are and what we do.
I could tell that you were pumped because you were very loud next door. I don't know what was going on over there,
I
but
wasn't loud.
All right, let me grab this thing before it goes off the rails.
First of all, I was in the gym this morning, grinding out, getting ready, especially after what I ate last night.
Well, it's time for Finding Solutions, presented by the University of Florida, the #1 university in the U.S. News and World Report's #1 state for education. All right, guys, Ryan Nielsen's hat says attack. So here's the question, right? Here's the Finding the Solution. If Ryan wants to attack the Miami Dolphins defense, which has been the attacker for most of the last year, how do you do it? How would you attack Tua, Tyreek, Jalen, and that very fast offense?
I don't think you can. I mean, Brian, just because they're multidimensional. They've got two guys on the outside that can run as fast as any two receivers in the National Football League. And then they've got two running backs that can run as well as anybody in the National Football League. So I think you got to have a little bit of a different approach. Now, you're attacking as far as individual battles and attacking individuals, like taking on blocks and all that stuff. But as far as scheme, you got to be real careful. I think this is a game where you're going to keep the safeties back, and if you don't, you may end up having big plays happen on you. And also in the running game, if you choose to get aggressive with trying to stop Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, then all of a sudden they can hit an explosive in a running game as well. So this is a tough matchup, and it's been a tough matchup for everybody in the league with this Miami Dolphins offense being so explosive.
Well, and the interesting thing is, it is clear that Ryan Nielsen wants to play man. I mean, we played almost exclusively man during camp and during the preseason. And so I think it's hard all of a sudden to say now we're going to play some shell defense, two safeties over the top to protect the big play when all what you've been is a man team. And if you stick to man against these guys, you are setting yourself up. You better play tight, and you better get home with Trayvon and Josh.
Yeah, you can play two-man, with two safeties back and man underneath.
But then guess what? They got this running back, two backs in Mostert and Achane who can
that's the hard part.
Eat up ground really quickly.
Yeah, that's the hard part, Brian and Mike. I mean, it's just pick your poison,
Well, you talk about heating Tua up and maybe speeding up that offense. They want to play fast anyway, but, guys, most of the Miami media down there, their biggest concern is the Dolphins' offensive line. Do you think the Jags have a chance to make that a major advantage for them, their defensive front today against that Miami offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, you'd like to do that. The hard part is that Tua does a really good job getting the ball out, and then they keep you off balance with the quick passing game and then also with the running game. And so it can be difficult. Now, if they were a 5- and 7-step drop offense, that might be one thing, and at times they will be, but for the most part, it's tough. I'm a big believer that this game is about the Jaguars' offense too, guys. I mean, they've got to be able to match the Miami offense as far as speed and points. And to be able to do that by controlling the clock and running the football themselves, because, Tony, one of the best defenses in the world is an offense that's controlling the clock against an explosive offense.
Well, and you add – I agree with you, Jeff, and you add the fact it's going to be hot. It is going to be warm down here in South Florida, and I think the team that can control it, who can dictate pace, where, Mike, you're right, Dolphins want to play, this fast break, big play, get as many plays as you can. If they're effective in that and we can't counter with controlling the line of scrimmage and getting Etienne and Bigsby going on the ground to control the clock, boy, that could be tough. So I put a lot on the offensive line. The big question coming into this season was our offensive line. They really struggled running the ball, being physical, and controlling the line of scrimmage last year. They made the one change in Mitch Morris. They're healthy, though. The other four guys, all healthy. Can that group protect Trevor? Yes, but I think even more importantly, get Etienne and Bigsby going.
Yeah, that's going to be a question that we got to watch play out over the 3 hours today. No question about it. But in terms of the offensive skill guys the Jags are going to put on the field today, guys, how do you feel they match up? If the Jags do give Trevor Lawrence at least average protection today, what kind of position does that leave the O in?
Well, I think pretty good. I mean, because you look at the Dolphins secondary, their best player, Jalen Ramsey's coming in, is going to play. They say he's going to be on a pitch count, coming with a hamstring. What does that mean? And so if he's out or if he's playing limited snaps, now you're going to get some backups in there. And I like, Kirk, who sat out the last preseason game, healthy, one of the better slot receivers. Gabe Davis and Thomas can both stretch the field. And so with Ingram working underneath, I like our receivers. I like what we can do in the passing game. It's going to come down to protecting Trevor and then Trevor making good decisions.
I think it's a great matchup for the Jaguars offense. The Dolphins defense is beat up. Jalen Phillips coming back from an Achilles.
Pitch count.
Yeah, then he's on a pitch count. Bradley Chubb is not going to be playing. Ramsey's not healthy, and I don't know what he's going to do as far as play time goes. They lost Christian Wilkins in free agency to the Raiders. This Dolphins defense, I think, is in for a tough day. I think the Jaguars offense is going to be able to do some really good things, and I think they will also find an explosive element in this ball game. I think Brian Thomas Jr. and Gabe Davis will both have big days today.
Guys, quick thought on Trevor Lawrence. Other than reducing turnovers, we all know he's got to do that. Where do you expect to see the biggest improvement from Trevor from last year to this year?
I think it's game management. I think it's the entire thing when it comes to game management and also being a leader on this football team and demanding more out of his teammates. And I think that's a big step and one that needs to be taken by Trevor.
Yeah, I mean, making good decisions, understanding, Mike, that sometimes throwing it away and punting is not the worst thing to do. We look at what has plagued Trevor is over the last, call it 2 years, is the turnovers. And it's not just interceptions. It's, ball security when he's in the pocket, and especially when he breaks contain and is running the ball. And I think a lot of that is due to the fact that he tries to do too much at times. And sometimes in this league, the defense wins, throw it away and punt it away and let your defense get the ball back to you. That is called managing the situation and taking your shots when they're there.
All right, fellas. Have a great broadcast today. Enjoy the beginning of the 30th season. Does it seem possible that 30 years have passed?
Now we're getting older, Brian.
I'm old.
All right. Well, I guess it does seem possible.
We're here.
Yeah, we're here.
So it
right?
is possible.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good thing, fellas. Getting old is exactly what you want to do. You don't want them to say
the alternative, I can tell you that.
100%. Guys, have a great broadcast today.
Thank you.
All right, Jeff and Tony coming up at 1 o'clock from Hard Rock Stadium in South Florida. One key. Give me a key. Give me something that you need to see for the Jaguars to be able to walk away with a win today.
I'll make it simple. This could be on either side of the ball, but I'll talk about the Jags' offensive line needs to give Trevor Lawrence time to operate this offense the way the Jags want to do it.
And I'll say that the Jaguars' defense needs to hold Tyreek Hill to 70 receiving yards or fewer. They lost 7 games last year, and he averaged 70 yards in those 7 losses.
I'll take 90. Yeah.
All right.
I really will.
Yeah, put it in perspective. Up next, the second hour of the Publix Tailgate Show. Top stories of the day coming up with JP Shadrick and Mike Dempsey. The Jaguars and Dolphins coming up at 1 o'clock. I will be back with you all this year in the postgame show, Mike, so I'll see you in a couple of hours.
You got it, brother.
You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
When you show your home love with a natural gas water heater, it loves you right back with more cost-efficient, endless hot water.
Hon, hurry it up, please.
And right now, you'll love earning a cash rebate up to $700 when you install an energy-efficient natural gas water heater.
We're going to be late.
Again.
What? Did you say something, hon?
To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
Headquartered in Jacksonville, Florida, CSI Companies partners with leading healthcare and technology organizations nationwide to deliver workforce solutions. CSI prides itself on building meaningful relationships and provides personalized operations to fuel the success of businesses, both big and small. Whether it's finding the right talent for a job or seamlessly managing a project from start to finish, CSI has 3 decades of experience in getting the job done. This is your workforce solutions reimagined. Visit CSICompanies.com.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at EverBank Stadium because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over 70 years of authentic Southern Pit Barbecue. We are the local barbecue joint in BBQval for generations of people in Jacksonville. Go to bonosbarbecue.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
Brooks Rehabilitation is proud to be the official rehabilitation partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. We are here for them, and we are here for you. Ranked #1 physical rehabilitation hospital in Florida by U.S. News and World Report, our playbook is individualized treatment and exceptional care to get you back to living your life. Brooks has cutting-edge technology and therapy solutions in every care setting, treating sports injury, orthopedics, brain, spinal injuries, and more. Go beyond your expectations with Brooks Rehabilitation.
Want to cruise down an open road in high-performance style? Visit JacksCorvetteGiveaway.com for a chance to win the ride of your dreams. A brand new 2024 Corvette Stingray Coupe. With its sleek design and cutting-edge technology, this vehicle is built for speed and luxury. So what are you waiting for? Enter to win at JacksCorvetteGiveaway.com today. No purchase necessary. Open only to legal residents of the states of Georgia and Florida. 18 years of age and older. Some restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. Ends 11/15/24. For entry information and official rules, visit GoToEventLink.com/rules.
The Publix Tailgate Show continues right now.
And it's hour 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. It is NFL kickoff weekend, and we're closing in on the Jaguars and the Miami Dolphins at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens. Kickoff just after 1 o'clock. JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey. We're at the Hyundai Studios of the Miller Electric Center in Jacksonville, and some breaking news just moments ago on social media on the platform X, formerly known as Twitter. Unconfirmed reports were out there with video of Tyreek Hill in handcuffs going into the game today. They have since been confirmed. Adam Schefter reported on it. Drew Rosenhaus said that he has been released and will play today. That's his agent. So Tyreek Hill, and some unconfirmed reports that Calais Campbell was part of this as well. Some traffic violations going in. Allegedly, don't know any confirmation on the Calais part yet, but the Tyreek one apparently is very real.
Yeah, traffic violations that result in him somehow lying face down on the ground in handcuffs. You know, I mean, if it really is a traffic violation, unless he tried to escape in his Lamborghini, which he was driving into the game today. I recognize that because I've got one in my driveway, JP.
Do you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, how did that escalate from you're going 5 miles over the limit or whatever the violation was to we're taking you out of the car and we've got you down, face down on the ground on the asphalt with cuffs behind your back?
What did Scotty Scheffler shoot after he was arrested at the PGA?
You told me. I didn't remember.
He didn't, 60s.
He didn't play overall up to his standard, though, in the tournament, you know.
Yeah.
And so, hey, I don't know if this is going to impact Tyreek at all. Maybe it just makes him a little bit mad and more motivated to go out there today. But
it's not good.
No reports on whether or not any of the officers were heard to yell Duval.
Scheffler shot a 5 under 66 after he was arrested that day.
There you go.
That's okay. Game day weather brought to you by the St. Johns River Water Management District. Florida's water. It's worth saving. Here in Jacksonville, 80 degrees and rain off and on. Imagine that. Down in South Florida today, temperatures expected to be in the low 90s, but sunshine. It will be warm for today's Week 1 game. Here are some of today's top stories. We start off with head coach Doug Peterson this week on what stands out the most when you look at Miami on tape.
Speed. You know, and a lot of misdirection, a lot of motions and shifts. You know, obviously they do a great job with that in their run game as well, you know, and it kind of can cause you to just distort your eyes a little bit, right, and get off your cues, and that's where some of the big plays have come, you know, for them. And obviously, you know, we know Tyreek and Waddle and the guys, I mean, just a lot of speed, and something that we've, you know, we got to be able to at least try to match, otherwise, you know, be in the right position.
All 4 of their big-time key skill position guys are all legitimate 4.3 or faster players in the 40 in their past. That's been a while ago. But they have the speed to do it. They have the pre-snap motion to do it. And, you know, this is an explosive offense, certainly in Miami.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, Jonnu Smith is fast for a tight end, and Jalen Wright is a pretty fast guy as well. We haven't seen him play a real game in the National Football League, so they're loaded. That's their philosophy. Just press you everywhere with that kind of speed, JP. But I think what Doug Peterson talked about with the misdirection is as important, if not more important, than the pure speed. You realize how fast these guys are. Jags have a lot of fast guys as well, but it's if you lose a guy, if you have any kind of confusion about who has whom in coverage today, that's how they can bust you for a big play on a small crosser 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. So Jags going to have to be on their P's and Q's, and we see on the official depth chart heading into the season, Foye Oluokun listed back in the middle of that defense. A lot's going to be on him to make sure his teammates are lined up knowing their assignments today.
Let's hear from Foye on the challenge ahead and how they meet it.
Yeah, we just got to own what we do, I think. It's week 1, so a lot of things might not have been seen before. Obviously, they think they have ways to get their guys the ball, but if we own what we're doing on defense and just be confident, bumps in communications or matches in communications, get guys on guys, you eliminate a lot of their catch and run stuff. So that's our goal, I think. But be in tune to our game plan. I think that's the key to week 1s in the whole NFL.
Tyson Campbell and the Jaguars cornerbacks have their hands full today also.
That's the whole reason they're doing it, to mess up your eyes. So if you know where to put your eyes, know where your assignment is, know what the key, you'll play winning football. But if your eyes are all over the place, any little thing will knock you off your game. Arguably one of the best receivers in this league, very fast, very quick, So like I said, man, you just got to, trust in your technique, be physical, and, accept the challenge.
Tyson Campbell, the 6th captain today for the Jaguars down near his hometown. And, yeah, it'll be a handful all day. If you get pressure on the quarterback, though, they do get it out fast. Tua gets it away really quickly, but if they can somehow kind of knock him off some rhythm, that would help up front.
Pressure up the middle is the easiest way to do that, right? Get that direct pressure, and the Dolphins lost 2 of their interior offensive linemen to one coming off an injury, and Connor Williams signed late in the preseason, but Robert Wood signed an over $20 million a year deal with the Carolina Panthers, so they were highly coveted out there, and we'll see if the Dolphins have found adequate replacements.
Let's go to the Jaguars offense and quarterback Trevor Lawrence trying to take that next step. He's facing a new-look Miami defense today, and because of the newness, it adds a little bit more to the preparation work.
Early games in the season are always a little tough, but especially when it's a new defensive coordinator. So you try to, piece it all together, some preseason stuff, some Baltimore stuff, all those things. You got to kind of try to take your educated guesses on, what you're going to see, and you got to prepare kind of for everything. And obviously it'll be a big game where you adjust as you go, and you kind of see what they're doing. And obviously, everyone has a game plan, so once we go in and we figure out what theirs is, it's on us to make the adjustments and, try to execute what we think is the best plays versus whatever they're doing.
All right, Trevor Lawrence and Tua Tagovailoa, 2 guys that got paid in the offseason. 1 playoff win between them, though, and somebody's got to take the next step, and let's hope certainly it's Trevor Lawrence doing that. You got to hang on to the football, first of all. 7 fumbles lost last year, a bunch of interceptions, a lot of things down the stretch weren't going well. He was battling through injury, but now everybody's healthy. They've got the full assortment of weapons, and this should be the moment where they take a step forward.
Oh, you hope so. And Trevor Lawrence has averaged 20 turnovers in each of his first 3 years in the National Football League, and I think, JP, really the biggest thing that goes towards cutting that down this year is better protection up front for Trevor Lawrence. Now, he's got to be better with his ball security in the pocket on top of that, but if you give him that little extra half beat to throw, if Mitch Morse does come in and really solidify the interior of that offensive line, I think the Jags have the skill position weapons to help Trevor have easily the best year of his young career.
Another one of those skill guys is running back Travis Etienne Jr. He could be utilized more in the passing game, and he's all for it.
I mean, I'm very excited. Anytime there's a chance to get the ball in my hands, I'm very excited, man. I'm a playmaker. I love playing football. I love the ball in my hands. So anytime I can get a chance to get the ball, no matter how it is, I'm very excited. For me, I just got to be just obsessed with the opportunities I get throughout the season. Whether it's 6, whether it's 12, just do the most with what I got. And I feel like that's just going to trickle down throughout the room. And if I set that tone for the guys, we're going to have a great season.
Yeah, Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby now, the staff seems to have a lot of confidence in him, at least early after this training camp and preseason. So having both those running backs, 2 different styles, would be a good thing.
It'd be a great thing if they could get first contact 2 yards past the line of scrimmage as well. We saw that in the 3rd preseason game, but the Jags were going up against Atlanta backups. So I think that's the big mystery, JP. How will the offensive line do in terms of opening up holes for these guys? How will the Jags do in short yardage? Can Tank Bigsby be that guy that you can consistently count on to convert 3rd and short, 4th and short? How will the Jags handle Benito Jones and Calais Campbell up front today? Goes a long way to whether or not they'll be able to stick with the run throughout today's game.
And it starts up front, like you said. That's where it begins on the offensive line. Cam Robinson, the left tackle, has a high level of confidence in this 2024 team.
It's never been higher. I've never had more confidence in the team than I do this year. From top to bottom, both sides of the ball, 3 phases. If we do what we're supposed to do, I think it could be a good one.
It's a veteran offensive line. They made one big change, obviously, in Mitch Morse. Everybody else is back around, though. Ezra Cleveland, they're hoping for a whole lot more out of him this year after only a couple games of action last season after he came in. But this is the group. They've got an 8th-year left tackle. They got a 5th-year left guard, 10th-year center, 10th-year right guard, 2nd-year right tackle. We didn't see them a lot on the field together in preseason either. Only 2 full drives in that final preseason game.
Will they be healthy, right? This year, you start off healthy with Anton Harrison and Ezra Cleveland in particular, guys who were banged up last year. And I think they've got good depth at the tackle positions if they need to go that route, JP. But so much of this is going to be on Mitch Morse's shoulders because he's the one change in terms of an actual new starter coming in here, was one of the best run-blocking rated centers in the National Football League. But the Jags have really praised his communication, making sure everybody's on the same page up front, which for a vet that's been in the league as long as he has goes maybe as long a way to his performance as the physical tools that he brings to the table does.
There you have it, some of the top stories of the day. The biggest one this morning, though, Tyreek Hill apparently detained by police, and the Miami Dolphins X account has put an official statement out saying, quote, "This morning, Tyreek Hill was pulled over for a traffic incident about 1 block from the stadium and briefly detained by police. He has since been released. Several teammates saw the incident and stopped to offer support. Tyreek and all other players involved have safely arrived at the stadium and will be available for today's game," end quote, from the Miami Dolphins X account. If you can't make the game, we get it. You can easily donate your Jags tickets to VetTix military veterans in the community through the Jaguars ticketing account page. Select more on the ticket page to select the game you'd like to donate. VetTix, tickets for troops. Let's head to Hard Rock Stadium in South Florida. Kai Stevens joining us from the broadcast booth. And, well, all the Dolphins players are accounted for and available today. That's the top story, I suppose.
They are. We have to hope he isn't inspired like Scotty Scheffler, though, because then that's not good for news for the Jaguars.
Yeah, 566 for Scotty that day at Valhalla in Louisville. So this is a Jaguars offense that, you know, they've had a couple of additions, right? They've talked about wide receivers that they've added. The draft pick, of course, from Brian Thomas, Gabe Davis. But this is an offense that needs to run the football to set a lot of those things up, Kai, and you know, it didn't really work consistently a year ago.
And at the end of the day, that's the problem. If you can't establish the run, they don't respect it, and then that's why it was difficult for Trevor Lawrence to find a lot of his receivers last year. That was a focus for them in the offseason. We talked to Doug Peterson this week. Doug Peterson was very vocal about how this was a main focus for them in the offseason, getting the run game right.
You know, these 5 guys bring a level of physicality. We revamped our run game a little bit, you know, and that's something that Phil spent a lot of time studying, and we studied that in the offseason and just see what we were good at. Simplify. Make things easier for our players. Repeat calls. It helped. It's paid dividends through, obviously, preseason, what we've seen and how we've executed in the run game in preseason. And I'm just excited to really watch these 5 guys work and see if we can get off on the right foot with our run game.
That's head coach Doug Peterson from the Doug Peterson Show on Thursday night on the Jaguars Radio Network, Kai. And Phil, that he mentioned there, is Phil Rauscher, of course, the offensive line coach. And simplify. I mean, that sounds interesting to me. Almost they were thinking about too much a year ago.
Yeah, I think there was a couple things. Obviously, they've upgraded at center with Mitch Morse. There were injuries on both sides of the center as well. So I think they were trying to maybe cover up some stuff. And, you know, when you're trying to scheme for stuff, people figure it out. It's the NFL, right? So now that they feel like they have the 5 that they want, everyone is healthy, now they can just kind of be straightforward, establish the run, do what they know how to do when it comes to blocking, and stay healthy, and that should work. Yeah, a little more, maybe some more three-point stance things coming out of the blocks, if you will, on the offensive line, a little more aggressive style. We'll see how that plays out today. What's going on in the stadium right now? What's the latest? How are we looking? We're looking good. Everybody's out there for warm-ups. Trevor just came out for warm-ups. We'll keep an eye out. Some of the Dolphins are trickling out as well. But, yeah, I'm excited to see real football today. Yeah, week 1, and what a game. It could go a couple different ways, right? In theory, it could be a track meet if both new defenses aren't up to speed yet, because both offenses, in theory, can score. Or I think the Jaguars wouldn't mind grinding this thing out and keep Tyreek and all those other guys on the sideline today. That would be ideal. I don't know. I feel like Week 1 is always a little bit of a question mark, and I feel like there's a lot of mistakes, so that's why I feel like there will be some high scoring. I don't know if it'll be because of the track meet style that they run or just because, you know, there's errors on both sides of the football, but hopefully they'll get all the kinks worked out at least early on in the game so we can see how things go the rest of the way. Don't blink, Kai. Things will happen fast today. I know. Have a good day. Bye, guys. Thanks. Talk to you in a little bit. Kai Stevens joining us from Hard Rock Stadium down in South Florida. We are closing in on inactives, about 15 minutes away from now. Up next, though, a look around the NFL and a visit with Trent Green, CBS Sports analyst, discussing Tua versus Trevor. A 1 o'clock kickoff time for the Jags and Dolphins, and it's the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio. It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. a high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense, a rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Big Number 1 Duval Ford is trusted by Duval families, Duval businesses, and law enforcement across Florida. We are Jacksonville's largest Ford dealer by Ford sales, with the biggest service facility to keep everything in your driveway on the road. Shop Big Number 1 Duval Ford on Cassett Avenue for our low prices and nationally recognized service-first experience. Big Number 1 Duval Ford, proudly serving Duval since 1916.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at EverBank Stadium, because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over 70 years of authentic Southern Pit Barbecue. We are the local barbecue joint in BBQval for generations of people in Jacksonville. Go to bonosbarbq.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
Touchdown at Jaguars away games when you fly nonstop from Jacksonville International Airport. Join the Jaguars in Miami and Houston. Watch them win in Philly, Detroit, Nashville, and Las Vegas. All the other Jaguars games are just one short connection away. And if airport parking has you stressed, be sure to visit the Jax Airport website before traveling to the terminal. On it, you'll find information about the status of on-airport parking in real time. See if your favorite areas are available or if you need to call an audible. Visit flyjax.com for more information.
The kick is up. It's good!
Score winning sub deals this Jaguar season at Firehouse Subs. Receive 50% off on any sub when the Jaguars kick a field goal of 40 yards or more. It's a bold deal for the whole city. Download the Firehouse Subs app for offer details. Redeemable only at participating Jacksonville and Orlando area restaurants. Only available in the Firehouse Subs app.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios at the Miller Electric Center. The Publix Tailgate show continues. Closing in on the season opener, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Miami Dolphins at Hard Rock Stadium down in South Florida. 1:02, the official kickoff time. Mike, let's go around the National Football League.
All right, let's do it, JP. Already had 2 games, which is rare for the first Sunday to have been played, and the most recent one was Friday night, of course, in Sao Paulo, Brazil, the first game in South America in the regular season for the National Football League. And late in that game, Green Bay quarterback Jordan Love got hurt. He did avoid an ACL injury, which was feared, but reportedly suffered a sprained MCL in his left knee in the Packers' 34-29 loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. And Love is expected to miss now 3 to 6 weeks. That leaves Malik Willis currently atop Green Bay's depth chart, which is a benefit to a couple of the Jags' division rivals. Indianapolis and Tennessee have Green Bay the next couple of weeks. So you'd much rather play Green Bay without Jordan Love, but it looks good that he'll be able to return sometime in a month or so. The other teams in the division active today, we've got a division game in Indianapolis. Colts will face Houston. A lot of people picking the Texans as the defending champs in the AFC South, much like they did the Jags last year to repeat in the division. Tennessee will be in Chicago. Caleb Williams will try to become the first rookie quarterback for the Bears, taken number 1 overall to win a season opener in the league since David Carr did it for the Houston Texans back in 2002. As of right now, Cincinnati has failed to reach agreement on a new deal with wide receiver Jamar Chase. That leaves Chase's status for today's opener versus New England up in the air. he has been warming up with his team, but according to at least one report that cited a source with direct knowledge of the situation, Chase has not decided whether or not he's going to play today. Doesn't want to let his teammates down, but he also wants to get that financial security in place. He was added to the Bengals injury report this week with a, quote, illness. I'll use the air quotes on that, and it's up in the air whether or not he'll be willing to play in the absence of that long-term extension, or maybe if they can still get that deal done before kickoff today. For the first time in nearly a quarter century, Bill Belichick will not be coaching the New England Patriots. They are taking on Cincinnati today. He's been replaced by his former player, Gerard Mayo. Mayo was 13 when Belichick took over the Patriots job initially. Belichick is said to be interested, though, in a return to the sidelines in 2025, but only for the right situation with a good team. Belichick had multiple opportunities to work as a defensive coordinator or special assistant this season, but chose to work in a number of media capacities instead. His former quarterback, 7-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady, will make his NFL broadcast debut today when he joins Kevin Burkhardt on the call for the Cowboys-Browns. That one kicking off at 4:25 Eastern time on Fox. And the NFL, we found out, recently sent a memo to more than 20 players and the teams they play for, emphasizing the importance of safety and sportsmanship and warning them that they'd face suspensions if there are any violations. The league declined to provide a full list of which players were notified, but it said that all the players that received the memo reportedly have been suspended during the last 2 seasons for on-field infractions.
There you have it, a look around the league, and illegal formation of focus early in this season, too.
You know, and the odd thing about that is, in that game, you know, Ronnie Stanley got flagged 3 times for the Baltimore Ravens, and Juwan Taylor, the former Jaguar, is known for the guy who leaves early on every snap. He got flagged for 1 false start in that game, but not at all for lining up in an illegal posture. Stanley was said to be too far in the backfield.
There you have it. Keep an eye on that today. Trent Green is the CBS Sports analyst for today's game. 15 years in the league as a quarterback with 5 different teams. And, of course, most notably known for his injury in the preseason with the St. Louis Rams that gave Kurt Warner an opportunity that they ended up winning the Super Bowl that year, of course. Well, Trent Green has a good feeling about Trevor Lawrence now going into his 4th year in the NFL.
I do think he's ready for that next step. I think Doug has proven himself as someone, not only as a player and a coach, but someone that knows quarterbacks, knows the position, is a good play caller, has put guys in position to have success, having won a Super Bowl in Philadelphia. And you look at even though it's the same record in year 1 and year 2, winning a playoff game, having that type of experience, having guys on the roster that know what that's like. And I think it's important when you look at the talent that's around Trevor. There's no reason why this can't be his best season. I think last year, you brought up the fact that he was dealing with some injuries, and you look early on in the season prior to those cumulative effect of those injuries, he was having a heck of a season. And I do think he'll continue to get better. I think that there'll be an emphasis in the offseason about the turnovers. I know the rest of the NFL and the rest of the country likes to talk about the fumbles and the interceptions and and all that stuff. And that's part of growing as a quarterback. I know my first couple years, and I was much older by the time I got thrown. It took me 5 years to get on the field. The game's faster. Things are happening. Defenses are trying to confuse. As I've tried to prep this week, getting ready for the game, seeing some of the things that the defenses were doing to him a year ago, trying to cause confusion, giving a zone look, but being man-to-man, having man-to-man with a deep safety zone, but then also having a couple robbers in the middle of the field. I mean, they were really trying to confuse him, and there were times that he was confused based on, I think it's pretty obvious from a turnover standpoint. But I think all those things, as you continue to grow and learn in this league, those things start to slow down. You start to see things better. And I think that's what kind of culminates and puts him in position to have success.
Trent, we know this offense runs really through Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram. That's where they would like it to go a lot. But they've got 2 new pieces this year at wide receiver, and Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr. How difficult is that for a quarterback to get those guys on the same page?
Well, I think it's important. Once again, I'll go back to the health. These guys have had all off season. They've had, training camp, just like everybody. Not many people play in the preseason, but, you get that work. You just need to continue the timing of it. Going back and looking at last year's film, breaking down some of the late season interceptions and turnovers that Trevor had and some of the things defenses were doing. There was also some miscommunication with the receivers at that time, with Calvin Ridley, with Zay Jones, and some of the balls that weren't I wouldn't necessarily say his fault, but I got to be careful to protect quarterbacks because I'm always looking to protect quarterbacks. But I do think that's an important part of it because I know the timing of it, getting the ball out of your hands on time, guys being in the right spots, all those things are important. Gabe Davis has proved himself a big playmaker, huge playmaker for Josh Allen up in Buffalo. So I think he's going to add a nice dimension to this. And then you never know with rookies. I know they're hoping that he jumps in and Thomas jumps in and makes a splash right away. I think there could be some growing pains. It's trying to learn the league and learning defenses and the way the DBs are going to defend him and the way coordinators are going to defend him. It helps having the talent around him to get some one-on-ones, but that'll remain to be seen how much he's involved. And I know they want to get him involved, but it's nice having a running back like Etienne also that he can rely on the run game a little bit as well.
Trent Green, CBS Sports with us. Tua Tagovailoa, another one that got a contract in the offseason. He's got an injury history. That's one side of this thing, but he also has a history in the recent history of putting up a lot of yards with some speedy receivers around him. So this was one where was this a toss-up for you? Was this the right time to pay Tua?
I think it was for Tua as well. I think when you look at the type of quarterback that Tua was, and a lot has been made of this just because of the recent comments that Tua had about Brian Flores and the previous regime and what Mike McDaniel has meant to him. I know having covered Miami, for the last 10, 11 years, the different coaches, and I was there when Tua was with Brian Flores, and his personality changed substantially when Mike McDaniel came in. He would come into our meetings as a different player. And I remember him leaving that first year with Mike McDaniel and just saying, gosh, he's carrying himself differently. He's feeling differently about his game. And to see the comments that happened this year, you can see, all you got to do is turn on the tape and look at the type of player he was 3 seasons ago and what he's been the last 2 years. I think that Mike has instilled that confidence in him. I think the play scheming and the design of the offense fits well into what Tua likes to do. If you see the ball gets out of his hands as quick as anybody in the league. So a lot of that is play design. And then when plays don't break down, having a world-class sprinter like Tyreek back there, tends to help things a little bit. So I do think it was the right time to pay Tua. And I just think he fits well into what Mike McDaniel wants to get done. And I know there were people, that weren't really excited about it. But I think based on what he's done the last 2 years, the fact that he was able to stay healthy a year ago for the most part, and the way he fits in what Mike wants to get done, I think this all makes sense.
You mentioned Tyreek. Jalen Waddle can fly. Raheem Mostert can fly. Oh, yeah. Devon Achane can fly. So how do you recommend defending this group with all these speed guys, Trent?
Well, it's, it really kind of comes back. It's one of two ways. You're either going to rush 3, drop 8, cause confusion, right? You've seen defenses cause problems for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense, right? When they drop 3 or rush 3, drop 8, try and put pressure on them with 3 if you can do that, or rush 4, drop 7. When you decide to bring pressure, you better make sure you don't give up the big play. And I think that's the thing is the timeliness of it. Okay, it's like you got to pick which way you want to attack it. You got to continue to cause confusion. You got to continue to mix things up. Because if you go, okay, this is what we're doing. We're going to bring 5-6 man pressures. We're going to go man to man. Eventually, you're going to get it burned because you can't match up with all that speed, all those guys you just mentioned. If you decide to go zone the whole time, they'll sit there, and that's when they get the Achane Mostert thing going and the screens and the quick bubbles and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, you're gonna keep it under control, but your time of possession is going to be 2 to 1. So I think the biggest thing, is really just is mixing it up. Teams have had success against Miami doing that. Teams have had success against some of the other high-powered offenses around the league doing that. You can't just stick to one formula because of those types of weapons.
That's Trent Green, CBS Sports analyst, on the call today. The full conversation available on the official Jaguars podcast network and Jaguars YouTube. Up next, inactives and a pregame huddle up podcast. Bucky Brooks and John Ogier will join us from the broadcast booth. We're an hour and a half from kickoff weekend. The season opener around the corner for the Jaguars and the Dolphins at 1 o'clock. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. a high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense, a rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Attention Northeast Florida businesses. The Jaguars and Corporate Traveler are teaming up to bring you the Rising Business Spotlight Program. Get your business in front of 65,000 passionate fans at each Jaguars home game. It's your chance to shine with prime in-stadium exposure, an interactive activation space, and a powerful social media spotlight. Be one of the 6 selected small to medium-sized businesses to be showcased this season. Connect with new audiences like never before. Visit corporatetraveler.us/Jaguars. Don't miss out on this game-changing opportunity with the Jacksonville Jaguars and Corporate Traveler.
How do you get him to a healthy future? Start with Nemours Children's Health. Our dedicated pediatricians and pediatric specialists provide all the care and support that you and your child need when it's needed most. Because keeping him well today will help ensure his very best tomorrow, so he can grow up to be whoever he wants to be. Nemours Children's Health. Well, beyond medicine.
Hey fans, it's Tyson Campbell, cornerback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This season, your game day is getting even tastier with Al's Pizza in the stadium. And every time we get a pick, you'll score. If the Jaguars get one interception, you'll enjoy buy one, get one free pizza at any Al's Pizza location Monday through Thursday after the home game. 2 interceptions, a free dessert. And 3 interceptions, that's a free appetizer. Just tell them you want the Jags pick. Up your game and get your Al's Pizza at the game or any of their locations.
It's not about how you start the job. It's about finishing what you start. The Ford F-150 truck can help. Get the freedom to choose between available gas, PowerBoost Hybrid, or all-electric powertrains, all delivering the power, capability, and efficiency needed to get the job done right. Just another reason why Ford F-Series is the best-selling truck in America 47 straight years. Ford F-150, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Unlock your potential at the University of North Florida. A beautiful campus with an inspiring environment for learning, UNF is a key partner to Florida's booming industries, providing students with direct access to internships and jobs. Set a new course at UNF and soar into your future. Visit unf.edu to learn more.
JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios. The Publix Tailgate Show continues. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. The Jaguars and the Dolphins kick off the regular season. Hard Rock Stadium, Miami is the site. Kickoff at 1 o'clock today. The season is here. You don't want to miss these matchups throughout the year, whether you want to become a season ticket member, catch 3 or more games with Bundle at the Bank, or experience the season with a Prowl Pass. There's a plan for every fan. Get locked in at jaguars.com/tickets or call 904-633-2000. Inactives are in. Here are the players down today for the Jaguars. Safety Daniel Thomas with an Achilles issue will not play. He is out today. Javon Foster, a rookie offensive lineman, inactive. Cole Van Lanen, offensive lineman, inactive. And 3 defensive tackles are out today. Esezi Otomewo is out. Jordan Jefferson, the rookie, is out. Jeremiah Ledbetter out today as well. So most likely Tyler Lacey would be the backup nose tackle behind Devon Hamilton with those 3 big fellas out today.
You would think so, and good for Miles Cole, who goes from 7th-round pick, maybe long shot to make the 53-man roster, to being active on opening day as only one of 3 listed defensive ends, even though a lot of those guys have positional versatility up front. The Dolphins have 6 inactives. JP, rookie running back Jalen Wright among them, as Jeff Wilson will serve as the 3rd running back for Miami today. Also, rookie wide receiver Malik Washington banged up, unable to go. Cornerback Ethan Bonner, linebacker Channing Tindall, linebacker Mohamed Kamara, and center Andrew Mayer are also the Dolphins who will not be in uniform.
One other addition for the Jaguars, Terrell Edmonds elevated from the practice squad, game day elevation today in place of Daniel Thomas. Those are the inactives, and let's head to Hard Rock Stadium in South Florida. Bucky Brooks, John Oehser joining us for a live Huddle Up podcast. Good morning, gentlemen. It's week 1. Bucky, we have made it to the starting line.
We have made it to the starting line. Really exciting. Really looking forward to the start of the season. How the Jaguars going to perform against a good Miami Dolphins team?
Yeah, and it feels, Bucky and I were talking on the way over this morning, it's a big opener. You don't really know what this defense is going to look like. Additions on offense. I think last year we sort of knew what to expect going into that first Colts game. You knew what this team was going to look like. This year we've seen a little in preseason, but it will be the debut of some pretty significant storylines.
And one of those storylines, guys, is obviously the offensive line and how much Mitch Morse will help the interior. And overall, they're healthy right now. I know we can't really know until we see them put it into practice, but what are your expectations, John and Bucky, for how improved this unit might be?
Hope. And I think health and the addition of Mitch Morse, the two things you mentioned, are both key. This offensive line never really played together last year with Cam being out early with the suspension. So I think it'll be better. I think it'll be more cohesive. At the same time, you haven't really seen it live. So, cautiously optimistic, but I think I like what I'm going to see, Bucky.
Yeah, no, when you talk about the offensive line and Mitch Morse coming on board, I think it's just about the communication and the cohesion. If everyone's on the same page, this unit has an opportunity. But the problem has been, over the last year, they haven't been available to play together. And so hopefully everyone is healthy. Cam Robinson, Ezra Cleveland, Mitch Morse, Brandon Sheriff, and then Anton Harrison, they develop that chemistry that you need, because it's going to be important. Because if they're together and just on the same page, then it's going to give Trevor Lawrence an opportunity to really take advantage of the weapons that he has at his disposal.
In theory, they should be able to handle this Miami defensive front, run the football a little bit, right?
I mean, I think so. I mean, look, when I look at the Dolphins on paper, right now in the front seven, they're missing, I would say, a blue-chip player. Jalen Phillips would be a blue-chip player, but he's coming off of an injury. Bradley Chubb isn't available. And so they don't have someone that's established as a pass rusher, nor someone that is known as the run stopper or the guy that you really have to change your game plan for. So offensively, this could be a shootout between both teams, and you would like to think that the Jaguars' defense may have more ammunition to eventually get a stop, more so than the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, JP, in theory they should be able to run. The thing you worry about a little bit is cohesion takes time. Mitch Morse talked about it in training camp. It's tough to work on the run game in a real way during training camp, because so much of the run is, what are you doing after 15 carries? And you never really get 15 carries in the preseason. You don't have live stuff in training camp. So it's watching it develop live in real time. I think they'll be able to run, and I think we'll see it in the second half if they have the patience to stick with it.
And, guys, as much as we focus on Miami's high-powered passing attack, and it is that, they love to run the ball as well. But, John, you talk about cohesion. They've got some multiple new starters on the offensive line. That's been the sore point for the Miami media throughout training camp, questioning how good that unit can be. So I asked both of you, is this a great opportunity for that Jaguars defensive front to get off to a hot start this year?
Well, I've been saying it all week and I've been saying it all offseason. To me, the defense rises and falls on the front with Hines Allen, Armstead, Devon Hamilton, and Trayvon Walker. I think those are their four big horses on defense. I think those are the guys that they will depend on. I think those are the guys who have to be dominant. And I don't know that it matters much to the opponent. I feel like this defense is predicated on what those guys do well. If the Miami offensive line is as uncertain as they say, then yes, they should dominate the game. They should force two out of rhythm, and they should be the reason the Jaguars win.
Yeah, no, I think it comes down to matchups up front. And so it's Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines Allen versus Teron Armstead and Austin Jackson. So that's the critical matchup when it comes to the edges. But really the weak link when you think about the Miami Dolphins, the guy that could be exposed could be Lime Eckenberg on the inside. If you can work inside out, because Tua is shorter, you want to bring pressure right up the middle and force him into some deflections, and those things can be picked off. But if you allow him to have a secure pocket inside, he is going to dice you up with the RPO game.
Bucky Brooks and John Oehser joining us from Hard Rock Stadium, South Florida. It's been a busy day for Tyreek Hill already, and we haven't even got to kickoff. We know what they do, at least in the past, have done with some pre-snap motion things with all their receivers and skill guys. But as a defender, where do you key on that, Bucky? Where do you start, especially with Tyreek? If he's starting in motion and doing these things, how difficult can that be for the back end of this defense?
It's a huge challenge. One, because of the caliber of player and athlete that he is. He is fast. He's a rare find as someone who can go fast vertically, but also has the balanced body control to change directions quickly and stop. That puts you at a disadvantage because you can't just necessarily assume that everything is going down the field. They do a good job of putting him in motion and give him a running start, so then he can break things off on in-breaking routes and out-breaking routes and those things. He's a tough matchup, and if you're the Jaguars, you got to commit to put 2 defenders on him, but that leaves you susceptible to Jalen Waddle going off on the other side. I can't wait to see what the first quarter kind of reveals in terms of how they want to take advantage or how they want to eliminate number 10, because that sets up what else could be available for the Dolphins and how Mike McDaniels may choose to attack.
Yeah, to me, that matchup is one. And I'm not sure any team wins that matchup with Tyreek Hill. The way you win it, I think, as a defense, is to put pressure on Tua and to not allow those routes to develop, to disrupt up front. I've just always been a big believer that when you're playing really fast, good wide receivers, the best way to take them out of the game is pressure the quarterback.
Guys, for the first 2 games of the NFL season, the new dynamic kickoff rule has been anything but dynamic, as we've seen mostly touchbacks. Any guess as to what the Jaguars' MO will be when they kick it off to the Miami Dolphins?
I think they might throw in a couple of kicks where they try to get a return out of it, try to see about it. But I kind of feel like maybe the league's going to have to tweak that a little bit and move it back a little bit to force the issue, because the safe way is just going to be to kick out. Not to kick out of the back of the end zone, Bucky.
Yeah, I expect us to put it out the end zone. Like, don't mess around. Like, kind of let it play out. I don't think the Jaguars are going to elect to be the league's guinea pig. I think they're going to put the ball at the 30 and say, defense, y'all got to figure it out. But you don't want to give them an opportunity to save these tricks that they've been kind of working on during the preseason and to spring it for a big play and a touchdown when we know how critical field position is going to be. I think they'll probably just put it in the end zone.
All right, Bucky, how's the heat? You'll be on the sideline all day, and I know the visiting sideline gets most of the Florida sunshine, right?
Yeah, I saw the report that it was 88, but with the humidity, it's going to feel like it's 99. So I'm going to be out there roughing it for the fellas.
I will not be roughing it, JP.
That's right. Stay hydrated down there, Bucky, will you?
I'm going to try to.
Have a great day, guys. Bucky Brooks, John Oehser joining us from Hard Rock Stadium in South Florida. And check out the weekly Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks show Wednesdays at 4 on Jaguars.com and the Jaguars YouTube channel. We are inside 20 minutes from Jaguars Radio Network coverage. Countdown to kickoff starts at noon. Up next, a fantasy forecast, our first of the regular season, and Frank Frangie from the broadcast booth. Jags Dolphins coming up on kickoff weekend. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Attention Northeast Florida businesses. The Jaguars and Corporate Traveler are teaming up to bring you the Rising Business Spotlight Program. Get your business in front of 65,000 passionate fans at each Jaguars home game. It's your chance to shine with prime in-stadium exposure, an interactive activation space, and a powerful social media spotlight. Be one of the 6 selected small to medium-sized businesses to be showcased this season. Connect with new audiences like never before. Visit corporatetraveler.us/Jaguars. Don't miss out on this game-changing opportunity with the Jacksonville Jaguars and Corporate Traveler. Want to cruise down an open road in high-performance style? Visit jackscorvettegiveaway.com for a chance to win the ride of your dreams. A brand new 2024 Corvette Stingray Coupe. With its sleek design and cutting-edge technology, this vehicle is built for speed and luxury. So what are you waiting for? Enter to win at jackscorvettegiveaway.com today. No purchase necessary. Open only to legal residents of the states of Georgia and Florida. 18 years of age and older. Some restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. Ends 11/15/24. For entry information and official rules, visit gotoeventlink.com/rules.
Daly's Dash is not only your Jaguars game day stop, but a great place to grab a meal any day of the week. To honor the Jags and the fans, we've crafted the Duval Sub. The Duval comes with freshly sliced turkey, ham, melted cheddar, and habanero jack cheese, topped with crisp lettuce, fresh tomatoes, and a double portion of our secret sauce, all served on a fresh roll. Come by your local's Daly's Dash today to get your delicious Duval Sub. Daly's is the official convenience store sponsor of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Hey Jags fans, Extreme isn't always about heat, it's about flavor. And 505 knows flavor. So wake up those sleepy taste buds with 505's new lineup of premium craft salsa. Powered by the bud-kicking boldness of fire-roasted Hatch Valley chilies, 505 sauces are more than enough to bulk up any simple spread. Ignite your sense of boldness with 505's all-new assortment of fiercely fiery flavors featuring 505's new black bean and corn craft salsa. And of course, 505's award-winning flagship flavor, Southwestern style.
How do you get him to a healthy future? Start with Nemours Children's Health. Our dedicated pediatricians and pediatric specialists provide all the care and support that you and your child need when it's needed most. Because keeping him well today will help ensure his very best tomorrow, so he can grow up to be whoever he wants to be. Nemours Children's Health. Well, beyond medicine.
This is the Publix Tailgate Show. JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios. The Jaguars and the Dolphins coming up at 1 o'clock at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens. On Tuesday, September 10th from 5 to 6 p.m., head to the Publix in Neptune Beach. You'll meet Ross Matisic, Cam Little, Esezi Otomewo, and Tyler Lacey of the Jags for a special appearance as they gear up for the home opener next week. That's the Publix in Neptune Beach, 630 Atlantic Boulevard, Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m. for a meet and greet. Time now for a fantasy forecast.
Well, the good thing about week one, JP, most everybody's healthy, right? So you don't have to worry about that much. We're not watching too many inactives, although we've got some updates on some key players coming your way here in a moment. Jamar Chase, not injury-related, although he was listed with an illness on the injury report this week, is active for the Cincinnati Bengals, despite the fact that he and the team did not get a new contract extension done. Early reporting indicates, per NFL Network, he's expected to see 20 to 30 snaps. Obviously, that can grow, but then again, you're playing the New England Patriots, and if they're as bad as a lot of people expect them to be, this could be a game where Cincinnati's able to rely on the running game in the second half, and they may have to because T. Higgins, who was doubtful coming into the game, obviously, when you're doubtful, it's almost assured you're going to be ruled out, and he was ruled out today. So Joe Burrow will not have his full complement of weapons in that game. On the other side, Antonio Gibson will give it a go for New England as the backup to Ramondre Stevenson. Justin Fields will open the season as the Pittsburgh Steelers starter. That's because Russell Wilson is inactive with a calf injury. Wilson won the starting quarterback job in Pittsburgh this offseason, but came down with that injury in the last week or so. So Fields presents a lot of fantasy upside with his rushing ability, but maybe has a little downside with George Pickens, although you had DJ Moore having a 1,300-yard season as the primary recipient of those Justin Fields passes in Chicago last year. Keeping an eye out. We haven't heard yet about Chicago's inactives. Keenan Allen is expected to play. I just got them, and Keenan Allen is on the active list, so he will go today for the Bears. That was expected on that side. On the other side for Tennessee, DeAndre Hopkins is dealing with an MCL injury that's going to plague him all season long. He'll be active, but may not be his usual self this season. Houston playing Indianapolis in an AFC South divisional matchup. As expected, Josh Downs not available for the Indianapolis Colts. Maybe the second most productive receiver receiver for that team this year behind Michael Pittman Jr. once he gets going. Later on this afternoon, keep an eye out for news on Tyler Lockett. He's got a thigh injury, but is expected to suit up for Seattle. On Monday night, Brandon Ayuk, who had been the subject of all kinds of intrigue this offseason, was holding in with the 49ers during training camp, is expected to play, but play less than a normal workload for the Niners. So it would really depend on what your options are, whether you could replace Ayuk in your lineup. I'm going with Chuba Hubbard as the starting running back for Carolina in one league as an example, and leaving Ayuk out of that particular lineup. For fantasy managers who lost Jordan Love for the next 3 to 6 weeks, or who knows how long it will be, look, you still got time before 1 p.m. today. Don't wait until your waivers run on Tuesday or Wednesday this week. If you have a guy on the end of your bench, particularly if you don't have an IR spot on your roster, go drop that guy. Go pick up the quarterback that's the best one out there on your waiver wire right now, so you don't have to fight the crowd next week. And then you can shift Love to IR if you have that spot. When the week turns into week 2, you can go pick up another player. But this way, at least you get your quarterback of choice there. And as you and I were talking about just a few minutes ago, Dak Prescott becomes the highest paid player in the National Football League in history. 4-year deal, $240 million, 231 of which is reportedly guaranteed. I don't know what's so funny about that last $9 million. That it's that big a deal. We knew Dak was going to play this year, JP, but what this does is really solidifies him in keeper and dynasty leagues along with CeeDee Lamb as a pairing for the long-term future and guys that you can, build those kind of rosters around.
The Cowboys usually go down to the deadline. They certainly did that today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're about 10 minutes away from Countdown to Kickoff on the Jaguars Radio Network, presented by the University of Florida, the #1 university in the U.S. News & World Report's #1 state for education. Let's head to Hard Rock Stadium in South Florida. Frank Frangie standing by. He'll have the call of the game today just after 1 o'clock. Kickoff weekend is here, Frank. All the Dolphins are accounted for in the stadium, apparently. All the Jaguars are there, and we finally get to see what everything's been built up about. These two teams are somewhat similar, right? They both collapsed towards the end of last season. The Dolphins got in the playoffs and lost. Jaguars missed the playoffs. They both have quarterbacks that have been paid. They've got new defenses. There's a lot of similarities between these two. Good morning.
Good morning, JP, to you and Mike, and you're exactly right. Very similar. Both offensive teams, both maybe a little concerned about the offensive lines. If there's one area of concern, that would probably be what it is. Both extended their quarterbacks, and you're right. The Dolphins were 11-6 last year, but lost 4 of their last 6 games. The Jaguars, we all know, lost 5 of their last 6. Very similar teams. And both teams, I think, JP, with legitimate playoff aspirations. I think that's what's exciting about this for both of them, and it's going to be a fun day for sure.
Frank, no truth to the rumor that you were street racing with Tyreek Hill this morning, right?
No comment, Mike. I can't because my attorney says keep that quiet, so I'm going to keep it quiet. But I got to tell you, Mike, when I saw the picture of him on the ground, cuffed, I thought, every time you think it's gotten about as weird as it can get, it gets weirder, doesn't it? So, but I expect that he'll play in the game.
Right, traffic violation, reckless driving, speeding, but then apparently got into a verbal altercation with the police, was handcuffed, lying on his stomach with cuffs behind his back, but he will be playing today. So, look, Frank, every defense coordinator in the history of the world has said, we want to be an attacking, aggressive kind of team, but that is Ryan Nielsen's style. So you go up against these guys, you understand if they get by you in man coverage, that could be a quick strike, but at the same time, if you lay off them, that quick game can put the ball in those receivers' hands, run after the catch. Frank, do you think in your face is kind of the right way to attack this Miami offense?
Well, number one, Mike, you hit kind of the story of the game, didn't you? We think that Ryan Nielsen's going to bring a press man defense here, and this is a hard team to press. So what are they going to wind up doing? I would think no to your question. Now, listen, I'm not the football guy, but my guess is no. I would think you make sure they don't throw it over the top. I don't sense that they're going to nickel and dime you to death. I think the other part of the defensive plan has got to be to make sure Achane and Mostert don't run crazy. They're pretty good backs, and they're both fast backs. So I would think a six-man box, a softer box, and nobody throws it over the top. That's how I think they're going to play it. And you're right. That differs from the personality that we think Ryan Nielsen's going to have. But I would think the kiss of death today is balls over the top, Mike.
Yeah, nothing cheap, nothing over the top. That has to be the key for this. Frank Frangie joining us from South Florida at Hard Rock Stadium, Jags Dolphins. So Trevor Lawrence, this is year 4. It's year 3 in this offense, and we know what happened with all the injuries last year, but it seems like there's that confidence that they can regain things and hang on to the football would be a good start.
You know, I'm looking down here right below us, and I just counted 9 Trevor Lawrence jerseys. All the Jaguar fans are right below us. I'm counting all the jerseys. I see a Fred Taylor. I see a couple others, but I see 9 Trevor jerseys, JP. Trevor's this team's guy. He's extended for the longest time. Doug Peterson has spoken about this many times, that Trevor took that season hard last year. Yeah, he had all the injuries, the ankle, the knee, the shoulder, the concussion, but he also took it hard. He took it hard that it didn't go better, and he has had a very good offseason, a very committed offseason. I think Trevor's going to be really good this year, JP. I really do, and I think it'll start today. Listen, it's only one game. They're going to play 17 of these things, but I think as this thing gets going, Trevor Lawrence is going to be really good. I really do. That's one of the things. It's taken the chalk. I know that. But I think the thing I'm most excited about watching this year is the development in year 4 of number 16. I think he's going to be so good.
Frank, we saw on Thursday night, Xavier Worthy, the rookie for Kansas City, made a big impact with only 3 touches in that game with that 4.2 speed. We've got a rookie with 4.3 speed. How big of an impact might Brian Thomas Jr. make today?
Mike, I was thinking the same thing watching that game. The rookie who runs 100 miles an hour really helped them and changed them a little bit. Not that the Chiefs need changing very much, but he gave them something maybe they hadn't had in the last year or two, maybe since Tyreek has been gone. I hope Brian Thomas Jr. has the same effect. And you hit it. He doesn't need to catch a lot of passes. If he catches one deep ball, or if they even play deeper, Mike, or for fear that he's going to catch deep balls, that changes the team in a very positive way. So I think Brian Thomas Jr., I think that will be his impact this season and his contribution this season, is he gives them an over-the-top threat that the Jaguars just haven't had in a long time. And if that makes a difference even today, because those crossing routes for Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram are there, all the merrier. So I can't wait to watch him and see how many times they go down the field.
Frank Frangie at Hard Rock Stadium, South Florida. Have a great call. We'll talk to you.
Okay, JP and Mike. Thank you, guys.
Frank will have the beginning of Countdown to Kickoff coming up in mere moments when Jaguars Radio Network coverage begins. We'll have the top stories of the day. We'll hear from Fred Taylor. We'll hear from Cam Robinson and Trent Green. And the final word before kick with head coach Doug Peterson. It's kickoff weekend. The Jaguars and Dolphins coming up. This has been the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Attention Northeast Florida businesses. The Jaguars and Corporate Traveler are teaming up to bring you the Rising Business Spotlight Program. Get your business in front of 65,000 passionate fans at each Jaguars home